saw this compromise would solve the slavery expansion issue, but by the mid-1850s, this conflict surfaced once again. Kansas and Nebraska were both being settled, and slave owners wanted to bring their slaves with them to those lands. The idea of popular sovereignty, come up by Lewis Cass, an ardent Whig expansionist, said that basically the idea of popular sovereignty is the territories decide whether they're going to be slave or free, and it arose to the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Under the notion of popular sovereignty, pro- and anti-slavery factions waged violent conflict for control of Kansas. With the Congress and nation divided, the Supreme Court stepped in to give a definitive ruling on an unusual case that would supposedly settle this dangerous controversy for good. What happened? Dredscott was a Missouri slave. He was sold to John Emerson, an army surgeon, and Scott was taken to Illinois and Wisconsin territory, and both of those were free, and before returning to Missouri. When Emerson died in 1843, Scott sued Emerson's widow in state courts for his freedom, claiming that his residence in the free soil of Illinois made him a free man. After defeat in state courts, Scott sued Samford, his current owner at the time, in a local federal court, and after 11 years the case came to the U.S. Supreme Court. So on the left here we have Robert B. Tawney, and he was the presiding Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the time. By 1857, there were 4 Northerner judges and 5 Southerner judges, including Tawney himself. So the plaintiff's argument was Dredscott claimed that when a person enters a free state or territory, the free status overrides the previous condition of servitude. And so he said, since slavery is forbidden in the free states by federal and state laws, Scott became free when he entered Illinois and Wisconsin. The defendant, Samford, argued that they claimed that to deprive a person of property, in this case, Dredscott, without due process violated the Fifth Amendment, which states no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property. So the decision was 7-2 in favor of the slave owner. According to Tawney, African Americans, be they free or slaves, were not citizens. As a slave, Scott had no right to bring the suit to federal court. The court also struck down the Missouri Compromise as unconstitutional because it deprived property owners of the right to take their property anywhere in the U.S. Okay, so any line of law that limited the right of slave owners to utilize their property was unconstitutional, which rejected the idea of popular sovereignty as well. So what are the effects of this court case? Tawney destroyed one of the delicate compromises that had kept the Union together for nearly 4 decades. The disallowance of popular sovereignty contributed to the chaos that ensued after the national disorder of the spread of slavery. The Dredscott decision was a major landmark on the road to the Civil War because before the decision, the North used legal compromises in order to prevent all that war between the two factions. The justices' plan was to make a definitive ruling that would settle the controversy for good and make the North and South just agree that slaves can go wherever they want, but it backfired as chaos ensued. The Dredscott decision actually set up the stage for the Civil War, and that's why it's a very important case. It strengthened Northern slavery opposition. For many Northerners who had remained silent on the issue, the possibility of having slaves going wherever they want was just too scary to ignore. Suddenly, many Northerners thought, okay, we need to, this is our last chance really to stop slavery. So they might never get the chance ever again. This growing fear helped further contribute to the Civil War, and it strengthened the Republican Party. Once Tawney declared that slave owners can bring their slaves wherever they want, and that any legal compromise that inhibited the expansion of slavery was unconstitutional, the North had no choice but to resort to violence. Dredscott v. Samford could be viewed as the last straw for the North in their struggle against the expansion of slavery. In the following years, Americans realized that these two mindsets, both quick to defend their sides, could not coexist. The country realized that, as Abraham Lincoln stated, a house divided against itself cannot stand. This government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. Scott's case left America in chaos, and only the complete eradication of slavery through war could cure. This case is important because it expedited finding a solution to the issue of slavery. Thank you.